Welcome. This message is brought to you by Ethiopian Hearts for Peace and African Hearts for Peace movements dedicated to truth, justice, and the unity of our people. Topic is Ethiopia's hidden struggle, the truth you need to know. My name is Abebe Negash. I'm an engineer, not a politician. I have no ambition for power, but as an Ethiopian, as an African, I cannot stay silent while my people suffer. What is happening to the Amhara people, to Ethiopia, and too many African nations is not just tragic, it is intentional. Genocide, displacement, and suffering are ignored, while war criminals live freely in luxury. The same pattern repeats across Africa, from Ethiopia to the Congo, from Sudan to Libya. This is not a conspiracy either. It is reality. The world turned a blind eye to atrocities. But we will not. We will expose the truth. We will fight for justice. And we will not be silenced. Now, listen carefully. Today, we confront an undeniable truth, one that the world refuses to acknowledge. The Amhara people of Ethiopia are facing an existential crisis. From targeted massacres to forced displacement, from political persecution to mass migration, their suffering has been met with deafening silence. Why? Why does the international community turn a blind eye to their plight while rushing to intervene elsewhere? And why did Fano rise? Not as an oppressor or aggressor, but as a last line of defense against annihilation. Let's break it down. The cycle of marginalization, retaliation, and ethnic-based rule has repeated destabilizing the country. Each ruling group, whether it was the Amhara elites during the imperial era, the Derg military regime, the TPLF-led ethnic federalism, or the current Oromo-dominated administration, has faced accusation of exclusionary policies and injustices. These historical grievances have fueled ongoing violence and divisions. The reality on the ground is that Ethiopia has been locked in a vicious cycle where one ethnic group dominates and the other suffer, only for the oppressed group to eventually rise and repeat the pattern. Ethnic federalism has institutionalized divisions, making ethnicity the primary factor in political power and economic control. This structure fuels resentment, making backlash or revenge almost inevitable when power shifts. Your fear of a violent backlash against the Oromo people mirrors what happened to Tigrayans after the TPLF's fall from power. If ethnic-based governance continues, every ethnic group that gains power risks facing the same fate when the cycle turns. The only sustainable solution is to dismantle this pattern by moving beyond ethnic-based politics and governance. Justice must be served for atrocities committed, but collective punishment and ethnic retaliation will only deepen the wounds. A way forward would be a governance model based on national unity, justice, and accountability, rather than ethnicity. This would require a serious re-evaluation of Ethiopia's political structure, possibly abolishing ethnic federalism and replacing it with a system that prioritizes equal citizenship, regional autonomy based on geography rather than ethnicity, and strong institutions that prevent ethnic favoritism. Now let's talk about deleting ethnic federalism, not reforming it. This is engineering Ethiopia's future. Ethiopia is trapped in a cycle of destruction. The ethnic group takes over power, marginalizes others, and then falls, only to be replaced by another, repeating the same mistakes. Every empire, every revolution, every government has played this game. And the result? Bloodshed, division, a country on the brink of collapse. We have tried reforms, we have tried promises of democracy, we have tried negotiations, but the truth is clear. Ethnic federalism cannot be fixed. It must be deleted. Think of Ethiopia like an engineering problem. Elon Musk did not fix old rockets. He deleted outdated designs and started fresh. He removed inefficiencies, tested new ideas, and built something that works based on fundamental principles. That's what Ethiopia must do. Ethnic federalism is like broken code. It divides us, traps us in endless war, and guarantees instability. No nation can survive when its foundation is based on ethnic segregation. We must wipe it clean and build a national system that works for all Ethiopians. Imagine an Ethiopia where your opportunities are not determined by your ethnicity, where leadership is based on merit, not ethnic quotas, where the economy, the military, and the government serve all citizens equally. This is not a dream, it is a necessity. And the first step is deleting ethnic federalism completely. The time for debate is over. The time for action is now, and we must demand a complete reset. We must rally for a system that serves Ethiopia, not ethnic elites. If we do nothing, the cycle will continue and Ethiopia may not survive the next collapse. Ethiopia's future is not written yet. It is up to us to break the cycle, delete ethnic federalism, start fresh, engineer a nation that works for all. Here is the expanded script I can read for you. Incorporating the historical tactics of Oromo pastoralists and their modern parallels using AI warfare. This version makes the case even stronger. So, hear it. Title is Ethiopia Under Siege: The Truth About Gada Ethnic Warfare and the Destruction of Its Heritage. Ethiopia is at crossroads, okay? A nation with thousands of years of history, a spiritual and cultural beacon for Africa, is now facing systematic destruction. Don't you agree? But this is not new. The same tactics used in the past to wipe out entire communities are being used today, with one major difference. AI-powered warfare is now being deployed. Stay with us to uncover the grim realities of Ethiopia's ethnic war and what must be done to stop it. Section 1. The historical reality of the Oromo expansion and ethnic cleansing. For centuries, Ethiopia is home to diverse people, united by faith, traditions, and shared civilization. But in the 15th century, everything changed. The Oromo pastoralist expansion into Ethiopia's heartland was not peaceful. It was conquest through systematic ethnic cleansing, targeting non-Oromo farming communities. Strategic attacks on farmers. Oromo raiders targeted Amhara farmers and other non-Oromo communities, systematically disabling their farm animals with arrows, ensuring they could not plow their land or flee. This is starvation warfare. After killing or maiming livestock, they burned down farms and homes, ensuring the displaced population could not return. This is forced assimilation. Surviving women and children were taken in as captives. Women often grieving their husbands were raped into submission, while children were raised in the Gada system, forbidden from speaking their mother tongue. Today, they call it adoption. This is not speculation. This is the recorded history. The Gada system, often glorified as democratic, was in reality an exclusionary rule that violently erased its entire cultures. The past was brutal, but the most alarming reality, these very same tactics are being used today. Section 2. Modern ethnic warfare, from pastoralist raids to AI-powered genocide. Fast forward today, and the Ethiopian government is repeating history, but this time with modern technology. AI-powered surveillance, drone warfare, and digital tracking systems are being deployed to systematically eliminate non-Oromo populations. Targeted ethnic massacres. Non-Oromo villages are attacked in coordinated offensives, mirroring the historic displacement strategies. Digital warfare. AI-powered digital IDs track, control, and selectively target non-Oromos for exclusion from aid, financial access, and movement. Religious and cultural erasure. Monasteries, churches, and ancient texts are being destroyed at an unprecedented rate, just as in the past. This is not just a cultural shift, it is an ideological war. The Ethiopian government is actively promoting Gada while suppressing Ethiopia's true historical and spiritual identity. Orthodox Christianity, a pillar of Ethiopian civilization, is being erased before our eyes. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church has stood for over 1,600 years. It has survived wars, invasions, and internal conflicts, but today it faces its greatest threat yet. The government has banned traditional Orthodox celebrations, prohibiting the display of Ethiopian historical red, yellow, and green colors. The dismantling of the Ethiopian Orthodox Synodos has already begun. Monasteries, sacred texts, and religious leaders are being systematically eliminated. Make no mistake, this is not just religious repression. This is an orchestrated effort to replace Ethiopia's Christian heritage with Gada supremacy. The groundwork is complete. The synod is dismantled. The next step? Total erasure. History has shown us what happened when ethnic-based supremacy is allowed to dominate. Ethiopia has already suffered through brutal wars, including the recent Tigray conflict. If the current ethnic cleansing campaign continues, a retaliation will come. and the bloodshed will be unimaginable. We are at a breaking point. Ethiopia is on the edge of total collapse, and the forces pushing for Gada dominance are leading us towards destruction. But there is hope. Ethiopia has survived for thousands of years because of its deep spiritual and cultural roots. The time has come to resist and reclaim Ethiopia's true identity. Expose the truth, share this message, educate others, and reject the glorification of a system built on conquest and oppression. Defend Ethiopia's spiritual and cultural heritage. The Orthodox Church, historical sites, and traditions must be protected at all costs. We need to reject ethnic supremacy. Ethiopia's future must be built on national unity, not tribal dominance. We demand international attention too. The world must see what is happening before Ethiopia is lost forever. One path leads to total destruction. The other leads to national revival. The choice is ours. Will we stand by as our history is erased, or will we rise to claim Ethiopia's true destiny? The time to act is now. So now you must ask, how do we break this cycle? Ethiopian struggle against ethnic conflict and displacement is really horrific. For centuries, Ethiopia has been a land of resilience, culture, and deep historical roots. But beneath its beauty lies a history of division, displacement, and a cycle of retaliation. Let's take a look at the historical context of migration and conflict. Ethiopia's ethnic diversity has long been a source of both strength and strife. Historical migration patterns saw pastoral communities expand into settled agricultural lands, leading to conflicts over resources. The introduction of ethnic federalism deepens these divisions. Instead of fostering unity, it institutionalized ethnicity as the primary identity, reinforcing separation and competition for power. Today, displacement continues, not just through traditional means, but also through digital operation, autonomous intelligence or artificial intelligence surveillance, economic control, and targeted violence shape Ethiopia today. Now let's take a look at the specific things that really hurts to feel and think. The systematic persecution of Amhara. The reality, across Ethiopia, Amhara community have been subjected to mass killings, forced displacements, and orchestrated campaigns of ethnic cleansing. In Oromia, countless Amhara civilians have been slaughtered in targeted massacres. In the Benishangul Gumuz and southern regions, entire Amhara villages have been burnt to the ground. Amhara homes and business are looted, while security forces either look away or worse, actively participate. If these atrocities were happening to any other group, would the world remain silent? Where are the international human rights organizations? The United Nations resolutions, the diplomatic condemnations, where are they? So here is a painful journey of migration, a people without refuge, with nowhere to turn, thousands of Amhara have been forced into exile. Ethiopian refugees face brutal conditions in Sudan, Saudi Arabia, and beyond. Many are subject to abuse, forced labor, or deportation back to danger. Unlike others, Amhara refugees are often denied asylum, as international actors refuse to acknowledge their persecution. I was one of those refugees rejected because they thought I am just Amhara, because I speak and my name shows Amhara. I'm Ethiopian. Now, why do Western nations welcome certain Ethiopian refugees with open arms but shut the door on Amhara fleeing genocide? Now there is one thing. There is the right of Fano, a defense against extinction. Fano is not a separatist group. It is not a political movement seeking power. Fano is a grassroots defense force that emerged because no one else would protect the Amhara from extermination. When government forces withdrew from Amhara regions, leaving civilians vulnerable, Fano stepped in. When international actors armed and financed others but ignored Amhara suffering, Fano refused to surrender. Fano fights not for conquest, but for survival. Why does the world label Fano as extremists while praising resistance movements in other countries? Why was armed resistance justified for others, but condemned when Amhara stand up for their very existence? Now let's talk about the hypocrisy of the international community. The world watched in horror during the Tigray war. Billions in aid poured in. International organizations demand justice. Western powers rushed to intervene, which was good. But when Amhara civilians were massacred, since 1960, systematically Amharas have been massacred. The same voices remain silent. No emergency UN meetings, no international media outrage, no sanction on those committing Amhara genocide whatsoever. Is it because the Amhara are seen as too strong in their national identity? No foreign actors view them as an obstacle to their geopolitical interests? Do foreign actors view them as an obstacle to their geopolitical interests? Why do they only care about Ethiopian lives when it fits their political agenda? The truth is undeniable. The Amhara people are being targeted, and the world is complicit in its silence. But silence will not save us. It is time to speak, to expose, and to demand justice. If you stand against genocide, if you stand for truth, share this message. Let the world know Amhara will not disappear. Fano will not be erased. And Ethiopia will not be divided by foreign interests. Stay strong, stay informed, and stay united. The truth about Amhara, a legacy of civilization, culture, and religion, is as follows. I welcome you to an eye-opening discussion about Ethiopian history, culture, and resilience. Today, we reset the record straight about the Amhara people. They have been painted unfairly in modern narratives. But the truth is far deeper and more fascinating. From ancient civilization to today, the Amhara contributions to language, religion, governance, and Ethiopia's very survival are undeniable. The truth. The Amhara people have played a defining role in Ethiopia's civilization, no doubt about it. From the Aksumite Empire to the Solomonite dynasty, they have contributed to governance, literature, philosophy, and national unity. The world-renowned rock-hewn church of Lalibela and the castle of Gondor stand as eternal proof of this grand heritage. If the Amhara were truly oppressive, how do we still have 86 different ethnic groups in Ethiopia, each with its own culture, language, and governance intact? Isn't that proof of cultural preservation rather than destruction? Again, the truth. Amharic, one of the few African languages with its own unique script, is an unexpressive and poetic language rooted in the ancient Ge'ez alphabet. For centuries, Amharic has served as a bridge, cutting people from different backgrounds through trade, governance, and literature. If Amharic was imposed unfairly, why so many non-Amharic speaking Ethiopians voluntarily use Amharic as a common language? Why does it remain a source of national pride? Again, there is a truth. Ethiopian Orthodox Christianity that predates the prominence of the Amhara. Christianity arrived in Ethiopia in the 4th century, shaping the country's identity for millennia. Amharas, along with Tigrayans and others, have safeguarded this faith, defending it against external threats. If Amhara were truly intolerant, why would they embrace a religion that transcends ethnicity and unites millions of Ethiopians? The Amhara's governance, again another truth. The Amhara's governance structures have balanced national unity with respect for local traditions. Systems like the Fetha Negest, law of kings, ensured injustice and justice while preserving Ethiopia's diverse cultures. Ethiopia's status as the only uncolonized African nation is largely due to the strong yet adaptable governance. If Amhara leadership was truly oppressive, how did Ethiopia avoid the fate of colonization? While most African nations fell under foreign rule within a 1-hour battle. Again, another truth. Amharas have been at the front of Ethiopia's defense against foreign invasions. From the legendary victory at Adwa, the modern resistance against neocolonialism, they have fought to keep Ethiopia sovereign. If Amhara's role was only about power and domination, why have they sacrificed so much for Ethiopia's independence rather than seeking separation? The truth is undeniable. The Amhara have been builders, defenders, and preservers of Ethiopian unity. Their language, faith, and governance have helped shape their country into a resilient and diverse nation. Next time someone tries to distort history, ask, who benefits from the lie? If you found this discussion valuable, please like, share, and subscribe for more content. that brings the truth to light. Stay informed, stay united, and stay strong. Let's continue. The Amhara ruled Ethiopia for centuries. We agree. So what does a political manipulation of history look like? Let's take a look at the reality. Ethiopia was not a centralized nation state until the late 19th century. The Ethiopian Empire was imposed of semi-autonomous regions ruled by local kings, nobles, and governors. The Solomonite dynasty, which reigned from 1270 to 1974, was not exclusively Amhara. Many emperors, including Yohannes, Tigrayan, and Haile Selassie, partly Oromo and Gurage, were not pure Amhara. So political power was not determined by ethnicity, but by loyal lineage, military strength, and alliance. Why this myth persists? The notion of a long-standing Amhara rule is used by ethno-national groups to justify anti-Amhara sentiments and policies. It allows ethnic elites to frame modern grievances as historical revenge, rather than acknowledging Ethiopia's complex political evolution. The consequences are: it fuels resentment against ordinary Amharas, leading to discrimination and violence against them. It creates a revisionist history that oversimplifies Ethiopia's past and promotes a cycle of ethnic scapegoating. Number two, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church was an Amhara tool, undermining a national institution. Is that true? This is the rhetoric. Let's take a look at the reality. The Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, EOTC, was established long before the modern Amhara identity took shape. The Aksumite Empire, centered in present-day Tigray and Eritrea, adopted Christianity as the state religion in the 4th century under King Izana. Ethiopian Orthodox spread across multiple regions, including Shoa, Gojam, and parts of Oromia. The church maintained its authority, often clashing with emperors when it felt state policies contradict religious values. So why this myth persisted? That Orthodox Church have been used by Amhara oppressors. This is to legitimize the church and justify the current burning and desecration of churches and textbooks, and weaken its national unifying role. To justify recent attacks on Orthodox institutions, such as government-backed efforts to divide the church along ethnic lines. The consequences? The church faces increasing persecution, with clergy members being targeted and churches attacked. National unity is eroded as the church is falsely framed as an ethnic institution rather than a historic pillar for Ethiopia. Third rhetoric: Amhara oppressed other ethnic groups. A distortion of the feudal system. The reality: Ethiopia's governance was historically feudal, meaning power was controlled by aristocrats. Aristocrats, not an ethnic group. Many non-Amhara elites played key roles in ruling Ethiopia, including Oromo, Tigrayan, Eritrean, and Gurage nobles. The land tenure systems, Rist in the north, Gult in the south, were based on class, not ethnicity. Amharas, like other Ethiopians, were often peasants under the control of feudal landlords. So why this myth persists? Because it provides an ideological basis for ethnic-based grievances and violence. It is used to justify ethnic federalism by portraying the current system as a correction of past injustices. Consequences are the Amhara population faces widespread discrimination, with thousands killed in ethnically motivated attacks. The myth fuels inter-ethnic conflict, preventing national reconciliation. Amhara are settlers is another rhetoric. Amhara are settlers everywhere, justifying ethnic cleansing. The reality, Amhara communities have lived in regions such as Oromia, Benishangul Gumuz, and the South for centuries. Migration was often voluntary, economic, or state-sanctioned for agricultural development. Amharas were not colonizers, but rather part of Ethiopia's long history of internal migration and intermixing. Why this myth persists? That's simply because they need to justify mass killings and displacement of Amhara civilians. And it's also to delegitimize Amhara's historical and legal claims to land in non-Amhara regions. The consequences are ethnic-based massacres, including the killings in Amhara and Benishangul Gumuz. Thousands of Amharas displaced from their homes, creating a refugee crisis within Ethiopia. 5. Rhetoric. Amharic was imposed as a colonial language. Misunderstanding language policy. The reality is, Amharic became the working language of government due to historical and practical reasons. Emperor Haile Selassie, who had mixed Oromo and Gurage ancestry, promoted Amharic as a unifying language, not a tool of Amhara dominance. Ethiopia was never colonized, meaning its linguistic policies were different from those of European colonial powers. Why this myth persists? This is because it can help to promote linguistic fragmentation and weaken national unity. To justify the removal of Amharic as Ethiopia's working language in some regions, what will be the consequences? Currently, Ethiopia faces linguistic divisions that complicate governance and education. This myth feels hostile towards Amharic speakers, particularly in federalist control regions. Another rhetoric, Amhara are against federalism and self-rule, misrepresenting political opposition. Many Amhara supported federalism but opposed ethnic federalism, which has led to discrimination, forced displacement, and division. The Amhara region has suffered from ethnic federalism, with Amharas targeted outside their region, a region that is given to them, leaving out many in other regions. The call for a non-ethnic federal system is about unity, not centralization. So why this myth persists? This is because it helps to paint Amharas as enemies of self-rule, justifying their marginalization in federal politics. And the consequences are that Amhara voices are silenced in political discussions about Ethiopia's future. The ethnic federalism system continues to fuel ethnic tensions rather than resolving them. The other rhetoric, Amhara elites were the only beneficiaries of the old system, ignoring multi-ethnic participation in governance. The reality is, Ethiopian elites historically include Amharas, Oromos, Tigrayans, and others. Key figures like Ras Gobana, Oromo, and Ras Makonnen, Harari, Oromo, held immense power. The post-1991 EPRDF regime was dominated by the Tigrayan elite, disproving claims that Amharas have always controlled Ethiopia. Why this myth persists? That's because it helps to justify political exclusion and economic marginalization of Amharas today. The consequences are Amharas are underrepresented in Ethiopia's current federal system and reduced in number by statistical authorities. The myth promoting resentment and fuels further division. It doesn't have any contribution. Ethiopia was an Amhara empire that colonized others. Misusing the colonial narrative is another rhetoric. The reality is Ethiopia's state building under Menelik II was part of a natural expansion, not European-style colonization. Many Amhara, Oromos, Gurage, Tigrayans played a role in empire expansion. Ethiopia's wars against colonial invaders like Italians and British show that it was not a colonizer, but a nation defending its sovereignty. So why this myth persists? That is to justify ethnic separatist movements that seek to dismantle Ethiopia. And the consequences are separatist ideologies gain traction, threatening national unity. Ethiopia faces the risk of balkanization, leading to perpetual instability. These myths are not just academic debates, they have real consequences for Ethiopia's survival. False narratives are used to justify ethnic violence, exclusionary policies, and historical revisionism. The truth is Ethiopia's history is one of shared governance, inter-ethnic cooperation, and complex political struggles. The sooner Ethiopia rejects these divisive fabrications, the better chances they have at achieving lasting peace and unity. The hidden hands who protects Ethiopia's criminal elites. Through history, Ethiopia's ruling class has been shaped by betrayal, manipulation, and unchecked power. But here is a disturbing truth. Those who have committed the worst atrocities, those who are responsible for genocide, war crimes, hate speech, and the destruction of Ethiopia do not face justice. Instead, they are rewarded. From the 1960s onwards, Ethiopian politicians, warlords, and their enablers have carried out horrific crimes against civilians. They have systematically dismantled the nation, fueled ethnic violence, and looted resources. Yet when their time runs out, they flee, not to exile or prison, but to luxury. Where do they go? They go to the US, Europe, Australia, the Gulf states, anywhere but Ethiopia. And when they arrive, they are not interrogated about their past. They are not held accountable. Instead, Their houses are fully paid for. Their bank accounts are overflowing. They live in safety, while the people they oppressed are left behind to suffer. Where does their wealth come from? Who funds their comfortable exile? Nobody asks. Nobody investigates. Why do Western nations welcome criminals who destroyed Ethiopia but shut the door on Amhara fleeing genocide? If human rights matter, why is there no justice for the real victims? Why do African elites escape accountability while their people drown in the Mediterranean or perish in the deserts? Ethiopian women are now modern slavery in the Gulf states. While Ethiopia's corrupt elites enjoy protection abroad, the country's most valuable are sold into modern slavery. Ethiopian women and girls are shipped to the Gulf states as domestic workers. As the current government put it, 500,000 of them are shipped. The bitter truth is the Arabization of Ethiopia. These girls and women will carry minimum 4 children each. It will bring Ethiopian Arabs, 2 million of them, back to Ethiopia. A land that is purchased in the name of investment will be their home. But their fate is even worse for some. They are beaten. They are overworked and unpaid. They are locked in homes with no way to escape. Some are raped, some disappear, and some take their own lives in despair. Some are sexual objects for the young Arab kids to practice sexual acts before marriage. If Ethiopia is a sovereign nation, why are its daughters treated like commodities? If human rights organizations truly care, why is there no outrage, no rescue, no justice? While the wealthy escapes and the powerful relocates, Ethiopia's young people are left with no future. They flee war, poverty, and hopelessness. They cross deserts where they are kidnapped, tortured, and sold. They board boats hoping for a better life, but many never reach shore. How many Ethiopians have drowned in the Mediterranean? Their bodies never found? How many have perished in the desert? Their names forgotten? How many have been sold into slavery? Their voices silenced? The world watches, but does nothing. The same nations that grant asylum to war criminals deny it to the desperate. The same governments that preach democracy and justice enable corruption and suffering. That is the truth. That is the truth they don't want you to hear. Ethiopia is bleeding, but not by accident. The Amhara face genocide, yet the worst is silent. The country's wealth is looted, yet no one asks where it goes. The youth flee, yet no one questions why they have no future. The criminals escape, yet no one holds them accountable. If we do not expose this truth, who will? If we do not fight for justice, who will? If we do not speak for the voiceless, who will? This is not just about Ethiopia. This is about Africa, about every nation where the powerful steal, kill, and run. Justice will not come from foreign powers. It will not come from corrupt leaders. It must come from the people. It must come from truth. And that's why we speak. Ethiopia's betrayal A nation sold, a people forsaken. Ethiopia is not just at war, it is being systematically dismantled. This is not about ethnic grievances, not about political ideology, this is about survival. The current Ethiopian government is not a government, it is a foreign installed machine of destruction. It does not rule, it sells. It does not protect, it destroys. Look at the facts. Foreign powers arming genocide, Turkey, United Arab Emirates, Iran, China, all shipping AI-powered drones, munitions, and surveillance to crush resistance and commit mass slaughter. These weapons do not come cheap. So ask yourself, where is the money coming from? The lie of investment, let me tell you. In the name of development and investment, millions are being displaced while Ethiopia's resources are auctioned off to the highest bidder. Land stolen and sold. Agriculture used to fund war. Mining a cover for resource theft. Real estate a tool for demographic engineering. Let's talk about the myth of corridor development. Largely seen in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Ethiopia's lifelines, trade routes, infrastructure, urban centers are being weaponized. The real plan is ethnic cleansing through displacement. The so-called development corridors are mass eviction plan, forcing Amhara and non-Oromo Ethiopians from their homes under excuse of progress. And Addis Ababa declared an Oromo city. Despite the historical fact that the Oromo expansion northwards was a conquest, not a peaceful resettlement, Addis Ababa is now said to be Oromos alone. What happens when a ruling elite want to erase a people? Destroy identity in Ethiopia today. Languages are banned. History is rewritten. Religious institutions are attacked. Forced marriages, cultural assimilation, and terror campaigns are tools of subjugation. If a DNA test were conducted today, it would expose the truth the regime fears. Ethiopians are deeply intermarried. We are not separate faces. We are one people. And that is why they want to divide us. Because a united Ethiopia is undefeatable. The future, if this continues, if this regime succeeds, ask yourself, in 6 years, will Ethiopia even exist? Will the ethnic groups that coexisted for centuries, will they survive? Will we allow an AI-powered genocide to reshape our country while the world watches in silence? This is not just an Amhara struggle, folks. This is a struggle for Ethiopia's very soul. To the world, brothers and sisters, will you stay silent? The international community poured billions into Ethiopia during the Tigray war. But now, silence. No outcry for the Amhara genocide. No sanctions. No investigations. Why? Because the Amhara people are strong in their national identity. Because an independent, united Ethiopia is treated to global interests. So they let the killing continue. This is a test of humanity. Africans, wake up! If you ignore this, you are complicit. Speak out. Share the truth. Hold your governments accountable. Ethiopia may be on the brink, but we refuse to fall in silence. Ethiopia's betrayal, a nation sold, a people forsaken. Ethiopia is not just at war, it is being systematically dismantled. This is not about ethnic grievances, not about political ideology. This is about survival. The current Ethiopian government is not government. It is a foreign installed machine of destruction. It does not rule. It sells. It does not protect. It destroys. Look at the facts. We're asking why. But this, where does this lead? We are naming many people avoid naming the perpetrators out of fear or political correctness. But trust and truth must be spoken without distortion. This is ethnic cleansing, deliberate, systematic, and undeniable. The Oromo-led government is using state power to erase entire population. The TPLF or Tigray elites set the blueprint for ethnic apartheid, and now the Oromo elites are executing it on a greater scale. This is not just conflict, it is genocide. If people refuse to name the truth, how can we stop the crime? Imagine if, during Rwanda's genocide, people had refused to say Hutu militias were slaughtering Tutsis. The silence would have enabled more killings. Oromo expansionism is in the final phase. Amharas have nowhere to run. So you should ask who controls Ethiopia today. You'll find out it is an Oromo-led government. Who is killing and kidnapping Amharas today? Who is killing and displacing Gurages today? Who is killing and displacing other non-Oromos today? The answer is the same Oromo elites in power. These are Oromo children. The Oromo people need to know. Who benefits from this destruction? Those seizing land resources and rewriting history. If we don't expose this, will there be any non-Oromo people left in Ethiopia in the next 10 years? Who protects the perpetrators? Who protects these perpetrators, you may ask? Where will they go when they lose power? The international community which intervened in Tigray but ignores Amhara genocide. The Western powers who funded the Ethiopian regime while pretending to support democracy. The corrupt elites who steal Ethiopia with wealth and take refuge abroad. These are the perpetrators. The only solution is to shatter the silence and force the world to confront the truth. Shall we refine this? Ethnic cleansing in Ethiopia is so immense. There is more. There is more truth to this. The Ethiopian government doesn't just commit crimes. It ensures no one can report them. The internet is shut down. Journalists are jailed. And people who recorded evidence on their phones are executed on the spot. Why? Because the truth is their greatest enemy. Social media platforms delete videos exposing the genocide. YouTube and Facebook suspended channels that share the truth. The West, which rushed to support one ethnic group during the Tigray war, now turns a blind eye as Amharas and others face annihilation. Why does the world choose which lives matter? Why do Western nations welcome certain Ethiopian refugees with open arms while shattering the door on Amharas feeling genocide? It's not just bullets. The Ethiopian government is using famine as a weapon. Farmers are being driven off their land. Crops are burned. Food supplies are blocked. Hospitals are destroyed. This is a deliberate strategy. Starve them out. Erase them from history. Meanwhile, billions of dollars flow into Ethiopia under the name of development. But who benefits? Foreign powers like Turkey, China, and the UAE finance the regime in exchange for land, resources, and military deals. Under the name of corridor development, millions are displaced, their land stolen, their history erased. The suffering of Ethiopian migrants is ignored. Our young people dying in deserts, drowning in the sea, or being trafficked as slaves to the Gulf states. Ask yourself, if this government is so poor, where does it get the money for war, drones, and propaganda? The Ethiopian government operates with two faces. One as a legitimate government and the other as a rebel force that terrorizes its own citizens. In Walaga, Shoa, and Arisi, and elsewhere, the government arms rebels to massacre rural communities, while in Amhara it deploys national forces to crush resistance. This is not governance. This is terrorism wearing a suit. For 6 years, they have dismantled Ethiopia piece by piece. Ask yourself if they succeeded. Will Ethiopia even exist in another decade? Western powers cry human rights when it suits their interests. They sanctioned Ethiopia during the Tigray war, but today, not a word. They gave asylum to criminals, politicians who orchestrated ethnic cleansing in Ethiopia since the 1960s, now live in luxury in the US, Europe, and Australia. Fully funded, no accountability, no justice. The same world that claims to fight genocide is ignoring one happening in real time. So what can we do? How do we fight back when the truth itself is under attack? We need to break the silence. We need to expose the hypocrisy. We need to call out Western double standards UN inaction. We need to demand justice for Ethiopian refugees ignored by the world. We need to document everything. The evidence may be deleted today, but it must survive for history, for trials, for justice. So we demand real action. No just statements, but consequences, economic sanctions, political pressure, and accountability for Ethiopian leaders and their foreign backers. This is not just about Ethiopia. If we allow one government to erase a people, so silence the truth, then we have failed as humanity. My name is Abebe Negash. I'm an engineer, not a politician. I have no political ambition. I only have a vision for a better Ethiopia, a better Africa, and a world where truth is not a crime. That's why I turn to AI, to technology. To those who still believe in justice, Ethiopian Hearts for Peace and African Hearts for Peace stand for truth. We will not be silenced. The very technology they use for war and atrocities, we will use it to justice. We will find out the truth. Deleted videos will be extracted from each and every angle. If you are about human rights, if you care about justice, then stand with us. Speak up. Share this message, because the world is only listens when enough voices raise. What if I told you that a genocide is happening right now and the world is silent? What if I told you that those who try to expose the truth are being hunted down, silenced, and erased, both in real life and online? This is not a conspiracy. This is Ethiopia today. Ethiopia is home to over 80 ethnic groups. For centuries we coexisted. We built civilization with a unique alphabet, an ancient language, and a rich history of resilience. But today Ethiopia is on the brink of destruction because a government that thrives on ethnic hatred and foreign powers that fuel its atrocities. The Ethiopian government doesn't just commit crimes, it ensures no one can report them. The war is just so different. There is a silent war on Ethiopia and Africa. This one is a calculated destruction. So listen up. For centuries, Ethiopia stood as a symbol of resilience. Nobody doubting that. We defy colonial conquest and standing tall as a beacon of African independence. Yet today, the nation is being brought to its knees, not by foreign invaders with guns, but by an insidious war of economic strangulation, engineered famine, and internal betrayal. This is not just Ethiopia's crisis, this is Africa's survival at stake. Let's take a look at the war on Ethiopia's farmers, the seeds of independence. Agriculture is the backbone of Ethiopia. It has sustained generations and built the country's resilience, but a silent war has been waged against Ethiopia's food sovereignty. They created fertilizer dependency. Under the TPLF regime, Ethiopia's traditional farming methods were replaced with chemical-intensive agriculture. Farmers were forced into dependency on fertilizers that they can no longer afford to access. Without them, the land becomes barren and hunger looms. They also created destruction of indigenous seeds. Genetically modified food, GM seeds, pushed by organizations like the Bill Gates Foundation, have systematically wiped out Ethiopia's indigenous seeds. Unlike traditional crops, genetically modified food or seeds cannot be replanted. Each planting season, farmers must buy new seeds from foreign suppliers, trapping them in perpetual dependency. There is no seed no more. So here we are. They have created a weaponized famine. With Ethiopia's once self-sufficient agriculture now entirely reliant on foreign imports, war and economic policies are weaponizing hunger. When farmers are displaced, when fertilizers are blocked, when the seed supplies are controlled by foreign interests, famine becomes inevitable. You control the food, you control the people. The collapse of healthcare is another, a death sentence for millions. Ethiopia's healthcare system, unfortunately, was dependent on foreign aid. The system is now in ruins. Drones are attacking it from the sky and there is no more medicine coming in. Ambulances are being used for military use. The withdrawal of US aid under Trump's policy has only worsened an already dire situation. The HIV crisis is looming. Ethiopia has long relied on foreign aid for essential HIV medicine. Now with funding cut off and the health sector collapsing, millions of lives are at risk. No medicine, no hope. Hospitals lack basic supplies, and pharmaceutical imports are restricted. Those with chronic illnesses, the elderly and the vulnerable are left to die in silence. The economic stronghold, IMF, World Bank, and the new colonialism. The Ethiopian birr is in free fall. Inflation has made salaries worthless. Government employees can no longer afford rent, let alone food. IMF and World Bank manipulation is These global financial institutions claim to help developed nations, but have instead turned Ethiopia into an economic hostage. Loans with gripping conditions, forcing the government into policies that benefit foreign interests while crushing its own people. There is also land and resource theft. Foreign powers including Turkey, United Arab Emirates, Iran, and China are buying Ethiopian land under the guise of investment in mining, real estate, and agriculture. But in reality, this is mass displacement in the name of development. The Oromo-led government is a regime of betrayal. The Ethiopian government operates as two-faced entity. As a government, it controls the National Defense Force and uses state power to suppress opposition and commit atrocities. As the rebel force in a region like Walaga, Arsi, and Shawa, the same government sponsors rebel militias to wipe out rural Ethiopia, targeting Amharas and other non-Oromo groups. This dual approach creates controlled chaos, a war against Ethiopia's unity disguised as governance. Addis Ababa is the next target. The regime claims Addis Ababa belongs solely to the Oromo, disregarding Ethiopia's deep interwoven history. The ultimate goal: ethnic domination and cultural erasure. Oromos, don't be fooled. Addis Ababa is already sold. You will not be living in those apartments, buildings. You too will be evicted when time comes. But I tell you, Oromo, nobody will tell you this. I have no hatred. But I don't like what's being happening to Amharas on your name. Non-Oromo women and girls are forcibly married to Oromo men. Is that not true? When they have nothing to eat. This is a brutal method of cultural assimilation that aims to rewrite Ethiopia's demographic landscape. In this modern era, it's being repeated what was begun long ago. This shows African future is in jeopardy. Ethiopia is not alone. Sudan, the Central African Republic, and other nations face similar engineered crises. The blueprint is clear. Replace self-sufficiency with dependency on foreign loans, foreign food, foreign medicine, etc. Destabilize the population through war, ethnic conflict, and economic hardship. Is that not true? Say, yeah, Africans, listen. You need to take full control of resources, land, mineral, agriculture, under the name of whatever has been sold for foreign investment. The world's silence and in censorship. Ethiopian journalists and citizens documenting these atrocities are silenced. They are jailed and killed. Government forces confiscate phones and kill those caught recording the truth. Social media platforms delete videos and shut down channels. Internet and power blackouts keep the world in the dark. So what must be done? We need to revive indigenous agriculture no matter what. We need to break free from foreign dependency. We need to hold the Ethiopian government accountable. We need to form United African Nations, not the one which is a gimmick there. This is not just Ethiopia's struggle. This is Africa's last stand. Thank you very much.